Hello, welcome to Dracula in Russian Lesson 8. If you have not listened to Lesson 7, please click on it now. If you are new to the channel, please click on Lesson 1.
Then he said that he had spoken in a light manner, and he hoped that if he had still a mistake in doing so on so grave, so momentous an occasion for him, I would forgive him. He really did smudate serious when he was saying it, and I couldn't help feeling a bit serious too. I know, Mina, you will think me a horrid flirt, though I couldn't help feeling a sort of exultation that he was number 2 in one dang. And then, my dear, before I could say a word, he began pouring out a perfect torrent of love-making, laying his very heart and soul at my feet. He looked so earnest over it that I shall never again think that a man must be playful always and never earnest, because he is merry at times. I suppose he saw something in my face which checked him, for he suddenly stopped and said with a sort of manly fervor that I could have loved him for if I had been free. Lucy, you are an honest-hearted girl, I know. I should not be here speaking to you as I am now if I did not believe you clean grit, right through to the very depths of your soul. Tell me, like one good fellow to another, is there anyone else that you care for? And if there is, I'll never trouble you a hair's breadth again, but will be, if you will let me, a very faithful friend. This is a reminder. Remember, little translates to malinki. This is a reminder. Remember, eyes translates to glaza. My dear Mina, why are men so noble when we women are so malinki worthy of them? Here was I almost making fun of this great-hearted, true gentleman. I burst into tears. I am afraid, my dear, you will think this a very sloppy letter in more ways than one, and I really felt very badly. Why can't they let a girl marry 3 men, or as many as want her, and save all this trouble? But this is heresy, and I must not say it. I am glad to say that, though I was crying, I was able to smatrate into Mr. Morris's brave glaza, and I told him out straight. Yes, there is someone I love, though he has not told me yet that he even loves me. I was right to speak to him so frankly, for quite a light came into his face, and he put out both his hands and took mine. I think I put them into his, and said in a hearty way, "This is a reminder. Remember, little translates to malinki. This is a reminder. Remember, maid translates to zdelo. That's my brave girl. It's better worth being late for a chance of winning you than being in time for any other girl in the world. Don't cry, my dear. If it's for me, I'm a hard nut to crack, and I take it standing up. If that other fellow doesn't know his happiness, well, he'd better smatrate for it soon, or he'll have to deal with me. Malinki girl, your honesty and pluck have zdelo me a drug, and that's rarer than a lover. It's more unselfish anyhow. My dear, I'm going to have a pretty lonely walk between this and Kingdom Come. Won't you give me one kiss? It'll be something to keep off the darkness now and then. You can, you know, if you like, for that other good fellow. He must be a good fellow, my dear, and a fine fellow, or you could not love him, hasn't spoken yet. That quite won me, Mina, for it was brave and sweet of him, and noble, too, to a rival, wasn't it? And he's so sad. So I leant over and kissed him. He stood up with my 2 hands in his, and as he looked down into my face, I am afraid I was blushing very much. He said, "This is a reminder. Remember, make translates to delit. This is a reminder. Remember, made translates to zdelo. This is a reminder. Remember, once translates to adin raz. Little girl, I hold your hand and you've kissed me, and if these things don't deal it as friends, nothing ever will. Thank you for your sweet honesty to me, and goodbye." He wrung my hand, and taking up his hat, went straight out of the room without looking back, without a tear or a quiver or a pause, and I am crying like a baby. Oh, why must a man like that be still unhappy when there are lots of girls about who would worship the very ground he trod on? I know I would if I were free, only I don't want to be free. My dear, this quite upset me, and I feel I cannot write of happiness just at a din raz after telling you of it, and I don't wish to tell of the number 3 until it can be all happy. Ever your loving Lucy. P.S. Oh, about number 3. I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Besides, it was all so confused. It seemed only a moment from his coming into the room till both his arms were round me and he was kissing me. I am very, very happy, and I don't know what I have done to deserve it. I must only try in the future to show that I am not ungrateful to God for all his goodness to me in sending to me such a lover, such a husband, and such a droog. Goodbye, Dr. Seward's diary, kept in phonograph, 25th May. Ebb tide in appetite today. Cannot eat, cannot rest, so diary instead. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Nothing in the world seems of sufficient importance to be worth the doing. As I knew that the only cure for this sort of thing was work, I went down amongst the patients. I picked out one who has afforded me a study of much interest. He is so quaint that I am determined to understand him as well as I can. Today I seem to get nearer than ever before to the heart of his mystery. I questioned him more fully than I had ever done, with a view to making myself master of the facts of his hallucination. In my manner of doing it there was, I now see, something of cruelty. I seemed to wish to keep him to the point of his madness, a thing which I avoid with the patients as I would the mouth of hell. Under what circumstances would I not avoid the pit of hell? Omnia remi venalia sunt. Hell has its price. Verb. Sap. If there be anything behind this instinct, it will be valuable to trace it afterwards accurately, so I had better commence to do so, therefore. This is a reminder. Remember make translates to Dalit. R. M. Renfield, Etat 59. Sanguine temperament, veliki physical strength, morbidly excitable, periods of gloom ending in some fixed idea which I cannot Dalit out. I presume that the sanguine temperament itself and the disturbing influence end in a mentally accomplished finish. A possibly dangerous man, probably dangerous if unselfish. In selfish men, caution is as secure an armor for their foes as for themselves. What I think of on this point is, when self is the fixed point, the centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal. When duty, a cause, etc., is the fixed point, the latter force is paramount, and only accident or a series of accidents can balance it. Letter, Quincy P. Morris to Hunter Arthur Holmwood, 25th May. My dear Art, this is a reminder. Remember old translates to stari. This is a reminder. Remember maid translates to zdel. This is a reminder. Remember eyes translates to glaza. We've told yarns by the campfire in the prairies, and dressed one another's wounds after trying a landing at the Marquesas, and drunk healths on the shore of Titicaca. There are more yarns to be told, and other wounds to be healed, and another health to be drunk. Won't you let this be at my campfire tomorrow night? I have no hesitation in asking you, as I know a certain lady is engaged to a certain dinner party, and that you are free. There will only be one other, our starry pal at the Korea, Jack Seward. He's coming too, and we both want to mingle our weeps over the wine cup, and to drink a health with all our hearts to the happiest man in all the wide world, who has won the noblest heart that God has dealt and the best worth winning. We promise you a hearty welcome and a loving greeting and a health as true as your own right hand. We shall both swear to leave you at home if you drink too deep to a certain pair of glaza. Come, yours, as ever and always, Quincy P. Morris. Telegram from Arthur Holmwood to Quincy P. Morris, 6th of May. This is a reminder. Remember make translates to Dalit. Count me in every time. I bear messages which will Dalit both your ears tingle. Art. Chapter 6th, Mina Murray's Journal. This is a reminder. Remember little translates to Malinki. This is a reminder. Remember old translates to Stari, July. Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The Malinki River, the Esk, runs through a deep valley, which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A Veliki viaduct runs across with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, and it is so steep that when you are on the high land on either side, you smatrate right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the Stari town, the side away from us, are all red-roofed, and seem piled up one over the other anyhow, like the pictures we see of Nuremberg. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin, of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town there is another church, the parish one, round which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. This is to my mind the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbor and all up the bay to where the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbor that part of the bank has fallen away, and some of the graves have been destroyed. In one place, part of the stonework of the graves stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats beside them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit here very often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now, with my book on my knee, and listening to the talk of 3 starry men who are sitting beside me. They seem to do nothing all day but sit up here and talk. The harbor lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy seawall runs along outside of it. On the near side, the seawall makes an elbow crooked inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between the 2 piers there is a narrow opening into the harbor, which then suddenly widens. This is a reminder. Remember old translates to starry. It is nice at high water, but when the tide is out it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk, running between banks of sand with rocks here and there. Outside the harbor on this side there rises for about half a mile a Veliki reef, the sharp edge of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell, which swings in bad weather and sends in a mournful sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the starry man about this. He is coming this way. This is a reminder. Remember old translates to starry. He is a funny starry man. He must be awfully starry, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I am afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at sea and the White Lady at the Abbey, he said very brusquely, "This is a reminder. Remember old translates to starry. I wouldn't fash muscle about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say that they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for cummers and trippers and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds that be always eatin' cured herons and drinkin' tea and lookin' out to buy cheap jet would creed aught. I wonder Maisel who'd be bothered tellin' lies to them, even the newspapers, which is full of fool talk." I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the starry days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, "I must gang a Jeanwards home now, miss. My granddaughter doesn't like to be kept waitin' when the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crammel aboon the grease, for there be a many of 'em. And, miss, I lack belly timber sairly by the clock." In the next paragraph, we are introducing a new word. The word how translates to cuck. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying, as well as he could, down the steps. The steps are a Veliki feature on the place. They lead from the town up to the church. There are hundreds of them, I do not know cuck many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must originally have had something to do with the abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother, and as they were only duty calls, I did not go. They will be home by this. This is a reminder. Remember old translates to starry. In the next paragraph, we are introducing a new word. The word should translates to dolgen. This is a reminder. Remember once translates to adinras. Vern August. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my starry drug and the 2 others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I Dolgen think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything, and downfaces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them, and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the starry men did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when we sat down. She is so sweet with starry people. I think they all fell in love with her on the spot. Even my starry man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at a din ras into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember it and put it down. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to cuck. It be all fool talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and nowt else. These bands and wafts and bow-ghosts and barguests and bogles and all anent them is only fit to set bairns and dizzy women a belderin. They be nowt but airblebs. They, and all grims and signs and warnin's, be all invented by parsons and ilsome buke bodies and railway touters to skeer and scunner halflins and to get folks to do something that they don't other inclined to. It makes me ireful to think o' them. Why, it's them that, not content with printin' lies on paper and preachin' them out of pulpits, does want to be cuttin' them on the tombstones. Smudate here all around you, in what ye will. All them steens, holdin' up their heads as well as they can out of their pride, is a kimply tumbling down with the weight of the lies wrote on them. Here lies the body, or sacred to them rewrote on all of them. And yet in nigh half of them there bean't no bodies at all, and the memories of them bean't cared a pinch of snuff about, much less sacred. Lies all of them, nothin' but lies of one kind or another. My gog, but it'll be a quare scouterment at the day of judgment when they come tumblin' up in their death sarks, all juped together and trying to drag their tombsteens with them to prove cuck good they was, some of them trimlin' and ditherin', with their hands that dozened and slippy from lyin' in the sea that they can't even keep their group o' them. This is a reminder. Remember, old translates to starry. I could see from the starry fellow's self-satisfied air and the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off, so I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong? This is a reminder. Remember old translates to starry. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to cuck. Yablins. There may be a poorish few not wrong, saving where they deal it out the people too good. For there be folk that do think a balm bowl be like the sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now smatrate you here. You come here a stranger, and you see this Kirkgarth. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on. And you consate that all these steens be a boon folk that be happed here, snod and snog. I assented again. Then that be just where the lie comes in. Why, there be scores of these lay beds that be tomb as starry duns back a box on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my gog, cock could they be otherwise? Smudate it that one, the aftest abaft the Byrebank. Read it. I went over and read. Edward Spencelag, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854, at 30. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on. This is a reminder. Remember, eyes translates to glaza. This is a reminder. Remember, old translates to starry. Who brought him home, I wonder, to hap him here? Murdered off the coast of Andres, and you consated his body lay under. Why, I could name ye a dozen whose bones lie in the Greenland seas above, he pointed northwards, or where the currents may have drifted them. There be the steens around ye. Ye can, with your young glaza, read the small print of the lies from here. This Braithwaite Lowry, I knew his father, lost in the Lively off Greenland in 20. Or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same seas in 1777. Or John Paxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a year later. Or starry John Rawlings, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men will have to dale it a rush to Whitby, when the trumpet sounds? I have me antherems aboot it. I tell ye that when they got here, they'd be jomling and jostling one another that way, that it 'ud be like a fight up on the ice in the starry days, when we'd be at one another from daylight to dark, and trying to tie up our cuts by the light of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the starry man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. This is a reminder. Remember, poor translates to bedni. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the bedni people, or their spirits, will have to take their tombstones with them on the day of judgment. Do you think that will be really necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. To please their relatives, you suppose. This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure their relatives to know that lies is wrote over them, and that everybody in the place knows that they be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on that Thruffstein, he said.